Okay, first up, I recognise that this is going to sound horribly self-indulgent, but please do bear with me because I think it's important. I think we all can learn from the growth of others, and I know there's going to be haters, and I know there's going to be people who say, look, you can't build full stack applications of substance and style when you're not a coder, and the AI coding tools are nothing more than artifice and chicanery. And you know what? I am not doubting the naysayers. I am just giving you my personal experience and sharing with you the excitement that I feel right now. And it's not been easy to get to this stage. And even though I recognize that if this was martial arts, then I wouldn't even have a white belt and I'd be getting lost on the way to the dojo. But here is where I'm at. Yesterday night, after almost giving up on the inclination, the desire, the expectation that I might ever achieve anything in the world of code, I built a working prototype of an application. It's not great, all right, but it does what it was intended to achieve. It does stuff. It presents data. It pulls data in dynamically using an AI API. Thank you very much, Google, for your free Gemini 1.5 Pro model, which is working beautifully, powering a variety of functions on the app, including, no, it's not that bit. I'm also pulling in a news ticker tape from the News API, which is fantastic, by the way. If you haven't checked out the News, they offer a free API for non-commercial use. The documentation is tip-top, and having worked on API documentation in the past, I know just how hard it is to write this stuff so that people of any stripe and style and skill can ingest it and work with it. So thank you so much. Using Tailwind, not using Shad CN, not using any tricks, tips, tactics, techniques of a UI persuasion, just going at it very simply. But I wanted to share this with you because I think it gives anybody a realistic hope that they can build something simple. I was reading something on Tom's Hardware Guide today. I've been following a great video guide from someone on Reddit in the ChatGPT coding subreddit, who was sharing a video about his journey, his frameworks that he has created, doubtless with help from AI, and how he's doing a 50 in 50 challenge, one app per week with two off for a year. He's a technical guy, but not a coder like myself. And it's overwhelming. I'm going to back up in a little bit as to the title for this recording. But I have always wanted to get into code, but I've always found it boring. I've even been trying or thinking about doing CS50 with David J. Malan, the great David Malan, the Harvard educator, who even includes his own unique strain of the Muppets to make it fun. He has a duck AI bot that helps students to get through the coding syllabus. He does various different editions of coding, not just computer science generally, but specifically Python and many more coding or programming languages. So I've big shout out as well to what's the name of the hopefully I'm going to remember by the end of the recording. There is a fantastic free website that has all free code camp. There we go. Big shout out to Free Code Camp, because they offer an obscene number of lessons to help people code. I know Replit has got a great coding academy built into it. I think they do it like a 50 days of Python. I've decided that if I ever want to commit to learning to code, that Python will be my programming language. But I've learned so much basic stuff. I have to stress, really basic stuff about scaffolding and architecture through AI coding, and it really has put me on the road to having a certain keenness and a respect for the modern engineer, to get a sense of what you need to know, and the finicityness, I love that word, of building an application, understanding frameworks and dependencies, understanding the structure and the just creating templates for apps. There's so much to it. Functions and variables are just about the extent of what I understand when it comes to code. So you get a really good sense of why I am so excited that I've built some kind of application that I will now take forward and build out and see where it goes. But having committed to GitHub, having activated version control with branches and stuff, all learned through this AI coding experience, I know that at least I can't break anything, and I can continue to iterate on the code base to see where it goes, and hopefully one day have something that is of service to the wider world. And that is the idea for this app, the genesis of which I've had swirling around in my in my mind for months, and I've tried so many different coding tools: Cursor, Windsurf, Bolt, Lovable, and I've stuck with VS Code now with the extensions Cline, RuCode, Continue, Ada, and the models that I use now are exclusively Sonnet 3.5 through GitHub Copilot Pro that I have on a 30-day trial. I keep hitting rate limits, very limited, but at the same time it means that I am forced to do my coding and then do my reflections and build out my pull requests and my project plan that is still very much the subject of human implementation and consideration, although I do have a Perplexity Pro subscription, so I have a healthy dose of that in my life, and I also use u.com for additional models, and I'm still sort of playing around with DeepSeek R1 reasoning. Bought a $5 top-up to see how that would work, kicked its tires, and it seems to have stopped working now. I think they've been inundated with requests. So, back to the title, 42 years building this app. It's legitimate. I got it's a bit of a cheat, but let's roll with it. I got a Spectrum 48K for my 8th birthday back in 1982. 42 years or 43 years? Let's go with 42 years and 4 months, because my birthday is in August. And I started learning BASIC off Crash magazine. Got a bit further than 10, print hello world, 20 go to 10, and filling my screen up with the same phrase a la Bart Simpson on the blackboard in the intro sequence for the series of the same name, or approximately the same name. And then I went down the Atari ST. Well, we were just too poor to get a Commodore 64, so I had to wait a long while until I was able to go down to a computer fair at it was the exhibition centre that preceded XL in London. Earl's Court, it might have been. There was a computer exhibition, and I remember coming back with my then bestie, Luke Wright, and I had a huge box. We'd gone in someone's car. I think Luke's mum drove us there. And I came back with an Atari ST. It was my pride and joy. 512k. Couldn't believe it. Oh my God, those are the days. And I did a tiny bit of programming, but nothing significant. I was more interested in playing the games than writing them. Another thing, I got an Amiga. That was my first entry into the Commodore world when I was able to afford it as a student. And then I remember I moved to a HP Pavilion desktop when my stepdad very kindly bought me a computer for my university studies. I never finished university. I went twice, failed both. Disaster. I say failed. Second time I decided to eschew it in favour of a career in journalism. No coding from that point at all. And talking about no coding, I did briefly brush up against the idea of the no code movement. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that very much preceded AI. I remember Ben Tossell and his MakerPad platform. He now has Ben's Bytes that works exclusively for the AI community. But I did start to dabble in the idea of working with apps like Bubble. Built a few web pages, landing pages using Card with, I think, 2 R's. But I've never, ever thought about the idea of really sort of delving deeply into code. I just thought it was too advanced. But I have always admired people who make things. Big shout out to my friend Neil Morin in Liverpool, who is part of a movement to bring art to the forefront in the city, and he has his fingers in lots of maker communities. And I've always been inspired by people who build things for IoT, Internet of Things, or people who build drawers, wardrobes, anything physical. And I've been a big fan of cooking and baking, and that's my real gesture when it comes to making anything. But I never thought I'd make anything on a computer beyond Go to 10. And then AI really sort of came along, and the spirited entrance March 2023 of ChatGPT. Everybody got very excited, and then we started realizing just what the potential was for it. But AI coding wasn't ready, really, was it, until GPT-4 and beyond. 4.0 really sort of helped, gave us a real vision for the future of engineering, and I started getting interested in it. I never really got any further than some really sort of basic Python scripts. And then Sonnet 3.5 came along from Anthropic, and all of a sudden it got exciting. And, you know, I'm an ideas guy. I've worked in digital. I've been in content strategy. I told you about my journalism roots. I've always been interested in writing. So I guess that gives me a little bit of a home court advantage when it comes to prompts, because I've written countless millions of words. So I understand the rhythm of words. I understand how to be concise. Word that I discovered last year, concision. I love it. So I've always been really interested in prompting, but prompt engineers, I mean, the way that some people can write prompts is next level, and I'm constantly learning. And prompting is obviously the heartbeat of anything to do with AI and the transformer model. So I have been beavering away trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, mostly failing massively to build anything of substance. And then I built something around news, which is ironic since I've spent my whole career in news, surfacing news in a way that could support my AI Today podcast that chances are you're probably listening to right now. Welcome. I hope you enjoy it. It's very rare to hear a human voice. Typically, AI Today is a podcast that I use Notebook LM to generate. And so far, so good. It started out looking at the latest artificial intelligence research papers on ARXIV, the research portal. Really interesting. Learned a lot there. I've been podcasting for about 15 years, probably more. So this was the real lazy man's entry into AI. For me, it was great because it meant that I had voices to read research papers that were otherwise quite dry. But, interspersed occasionally with me when I've had something to say that I think I say better than an artificial voice. So here we are, and here I am with a working application. I got here in a very meandering route. My dream job is to be the head of a special projects team, Skunkworks team, because I think I work really well in understanding people, in interfacing colleagues and customers, in horizon scanning, in looking at what the market tells me and what industry at large tells me, in what geopolitics tells me, looking at the micro and the macro environments and trends. And so one of the things that I really wanted to do was create an application that would show my prospective clients or prospective employers the value of embedding a special projects team, or as Lockheed Martin did many, many years ago, a Skunkworks team, to work in isolation, but at the same time to dip in and out of the organisation. And when it comes to making important decisions, making decisions independently of organisational functions. You're a leader and you ask HR or you ask finance for their opinions on a project, and you will get a very finance or HR biased outcome. So a Skunkworks or a special projects team works in its own silo, firewalled, if you will, selectively firewalled. It will let its walls be permeated by business intelligence, but it won't be biased or have its hand forced by any particular function. And the research that it does and the experimentation that it does is all done independently of other areas of the business. Unbelievable. So anyway, the app that I've managed to build does a very, very good job at presenting the case for a special projects team using a variety of techniques. And I'm excited to be able to share it with the world once I move it from its local environment into the cloud. Having it built and having the code on GitHub means that I can now act in the capacity of product owner and start being very selective about which pull requests get prioritized, which opportunities, which improvements get to be built, and it really starts to feel now I actually have something to work with that we can really start to gain traction and share it with the world. And hopefully it will then spawn a variety of clones across different domains, more of which I'll talk about soon. So what are my major learnings? Well, I think the one thing that one thing that Lovable does very, very well, Lovable, if you want to look it up on the Googles, is creates good UI. It does a very good interpretation of what you are describing in words. And so I had a screen grab of what I imagined that the dashboard would look like for this app. And this really was the transformation, the eureka moment, the epiphany for my AI coding. I've been trying desperately to shovel thousands of words into what I thought would give my AI engineer the best possible overview of how it would build out the app. So that was a really important thing. Now, at the same time, RuCode, which is built a fork of Cline. Cline is an extension that you can pop into VS Code, Visual Studio Code. My apologies, show how much I don't know about code. It's an extension that you can add to Visual Studio Code, which is a Microsoft open source platform, an IDE, a developer environment. What this will do is you will add in your AI model of choice, you will add in custom instructions, and the AI engineer is now ready to be mobilized. Now, what Cline and RuCode have done is introduce different agents, because we are now in the world of agentic AI. Its two agents are essentially architect and coder, and there's also an ask one, which is just generally consult with. But the architect, I think, is unique to Rucode, and the options for agents in Klein, as this is recorded, are ask and code. And the breakthrough for me was that I was then able to work interchangeably with the architect and the coder, the engineer, in Rucode. Rucode and Klein, I think, have different special instructions that they present to the AI model to get different results out. So if you inputted the same prompts for Rucode and Klein, you would probably get slightly different applications built. But this whole sort of switching of architect, which would help you to query your plan and then switch to the coder, which would then take the revised plan that you would insist to the engineer was written to be machine readable first and then human readable second, because obviously you want to speak the language of the AI model to get the best from it. This switching of agents was a real crucial shot in the arm for me. I also used DeepSeek Reasoner R1 to flesh out some ideas, and a special shout out to Perplexity as well, and OpenAI's O1 model, which I used as well to create pull requests. Again, show my naivety here in the world of coding, but really, really helpful, really informative, and a really beautiful experience. And as a result of bringing all of these things together, I think Excel users would call it concatenating the data. I've been able to build this application that I'm now delighted with as a working prototype. So much to do, website to build to wrap around it so that people can access it once it's pushed to the cloud, but thoroughly excited for the future of AI coding. To see from my point of view, you now know my life story in coding, how little I knew and yet how far I've come. It would be impossible to imagine a state where I would have been able to build this with my own coding experience. So I hope this gives you some hope if you are thinking about delving into the world of AI coding. As I say, I use VS Code with Klein, and I subscribe to the GitHub Copilot Pro plan, $10 a month for an unknown amount of access to Sonnet 3.5. Really, really helpful. Recommend it. And do try out the DeepSeek Chat, the free version of the R1 Reasoner model at chat.deepseek.com. And I wish you well in your journey and your adventures. And if there's anything I can do to help, any ideas you want, if you want to delve deeper into my adventures, do drop me a line at dave@wordandmouth.com. Happy to chat. You'll also find me in various places on the web. Thank you for your listening. Thank you for your patience. I hope that was useful, and I'm sure I will continue to share my experiences and failures along the way. Until next time, thank you for listening to AI Today, and I will speak to you soon. Bye for now.